All right, I would like to talk about Loserthink. It's a little thing which I have to show you the cover of the book. Hold on, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Stay. I'm back. You didn't go anywhere, did you? All right. Now I want to give you 3 examples of Loserthink, which is a concept out of my new book, which you can pre-order now, the best book I've ever written. Now remember, loserthink doesn't mean that the people who are doing it are losers. Nothing like that. I'm saying that as a method of understanding your world, it takes you down a unproductive path. It's a losing path. All right, one of the concepts that I talk about here and the idea behind loserthink is that if you have exposure to different fields, you can see around corners and you can see situations more clearly. So, for example, if you had experience, let's say, as a lawyer, and then you also knew economics, and then let's say you also knew psychology, you'd be way ahead of somebody who only knew one of those things. And in Loserthink, I don't teach you everything that those fields would teach you, just the important concepts. And I'll give you some clear examples of this. I've got 3 examples of people who either exhibited loserthink or did not. Let's take number 1, the Doral decision. The decision to hold the G7 at the Doral Country Club. What do people who have only, let's say, their only filter is government or reporting? Let's say they know the news, they know history, and they're good at reporting and government stuff. And then they see this story about the president chose his own property, Doral Country Club, for the G7. What would they naturally think about that? They'd say that's a problem, right? If that was your experience, if you knew journalism, government, and history, and that was your main focus, and you looked at that, you'd say, this is terrible. This is terrible. It looks like it's just an inside job. He's looking to profit from it. And sure, he's saying we'll do it at cost. But you're still saying to yourself, yeah, but it brings attention to his property, right? Now, what if you had an additional skill? Let's say your skill stack included journalism and the media, a little bit about government, and a little bit about psychology, history, etc. But suppose you also understood negotiating. Suppose you understood persuasion, which in negotiating are sort of the same general area. If you do, and I do, and the president does, you would say that this is the most brilliant thing you've ever seen in your life. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know I do that sometimes. Here's the thing. When you're negotiating, you always want the home court advantage. You want to be somewhere where you are most comfortable, your own property. And you want the other people to be impressed by your surroundings. You want something about you, yourself, your personality, but also your property, to literally surround them, envelop them, and become part of their world. You can't set the table better than this. So much so, I would say that every time that a president of our country hosts someone in this country, they should always take the home field advantage. Let me ask you this question. Would it be better for the President of the United States to meet another world leader at a hotel ballroom or in the Oval Office? You see it now, right? If you meet with the President of the United States in the Oval Office, the President has a huge advantage in this situation because you're in the Oval Office. You're literally surrounded by that president's power and prestige. That makes a big difference. If you meet him at the restaurant and have lunch, well, then the table is being set by just randomness. You're just somewhere else. You have no advantage in that situation. So that's my first example of loserthink. Now remember, loserthink doesn't mean that the people who are doing it are losers. Nothing like that. I'm saying that as a method of understanding your world, it takes you down an unproductive path. It's a losing path. It's better to increase your talent stack so that you can see around corners a little bit better. All right. So what was missing for the Doral story was an understanding of negotiating. It is a magnificently correct decision. The decision to do it at Doral isn't just pretty good. It isn't just, well, he can get away with it. It's magnificent. It's one of the best, smartest, cleanest wins you've ever seen. Reported by people who don't have a full understanding of the world, because they've got a blank spot there in the negotiating part of their brain map, can't see it. It's invisible to them. All right, here's another one. So Elizabeth Warren plans to fundamentally change the system, and she uses words like that, where she's going to fundamentally change our economic system. If you did not have a degree in economics, as I do, I've got a degree in economics and I've got an MBA, business school, so I have that part of my mental map is largely filled in. So when Elizabeth Warren says something like this, I want to fundamentally change the system, people who have my background, whether they say it in these words or not, are having the following thought. When is a good time to make a radical change to your system? Is a good time to do it when it's working great or when it's not working great? Now, some people say, hey, Scott, you said to me that it was actually a really good time to do a trade war with China because you said that our economy is strong. That's a good time to take a risk because your economy is so strong that if that goes wrong, you're still okay because the economy started so strong. That is correct. The trade war is a change within the system. So the system didn't change at all. We're just tweaking one variable within the system. That's normal business. Now, the China trade war is bigger than normal variable, but it's still within the system. No matter what we do with China, the system will still be the system. What Warren wants to do is take the system, throw it away, and replace it with something we have not tried in this country in quite the way she wants to do it. That is a radical and unpredictable change, which is way beyond the level of risk that anybody who had a degree in economics would accept. There's almost nobody who, if they were being honest, let's say, in a political sense, you will, of course, find people who will take any position on anything, right? Because it's politics. But even somebody who pretended to disagree with what I'm saying, if I could take them privately and say, look, nobody will ever hear what you're going to say to me. This is just between us. I swear, trust me, it's just us. Nobody else will hear your opinion. Do you think it's a good idea with your degree in economics to change the entire system when everyone agrees the system has never worked as well as it's working today? 3.5% unemployment. I mean, really, that's just crazy. And you don't change your whole economy when it's the best it's ever been. Ever. It's just the dumbest thing in the world. Now, let's say that you had no experience in economics and no experience in anything else in which you would do risk management decisions. Let's say you were a journalist. Let's say you had a degree in history. Let's say you had a degree in anthropology. In which of those domains would you have learned risk management? None, right? Risk management wouldn't be part of what you do. But let's say you were a doctor. Let's say you were an emergency room doctor, or even, most extreme case, a battlefield doctor. You work in a war zone. Well, in those cases, you're doing risk management decisions all the time. Do I work on this patient? This one might die, but this one's 85, but this one's 20. So you're doing all this risk management decisions. That might get you to the point where you would recognize that Warren's plan is completely the worst risk management decision you could ever make. It's the worst. Now compare that with Julian Castro, who was asked about UBI during the last debate. Do you remember what Julian's response was? He just gave a sort of a dismissive one sentence, and he said, well, that might be worth a pilot, a little test program, a pilot program. Did you catch that? It was one of the smartest things said at the debate, and he just mumbled it in one sentence. He goes, well, maybe do a pilot program on that. Julian Castro showed you how to do it. Now, I don't know what his background is. Does he have a law degree? I don't know what Julian Castro's background is, but maybe somebody can tell me in the comments while I'm doing this. But based on that comment, the fact that Julian said, let's do a pilot program, what does that tell you about Julian Castro? It tells you he understands risk management. That's exactly what you do. If Elizabeth Warren had been saying, look, I know this is a radical thing, we can't do this all at once, but I'm going to pick out this part of the economy, and I'm just going to work on this one thing. Let's do a pilot, let's try it small, let's try it in one state, let's see what we can learn, and then we'll decide later if we want to do it bigger. If Elizabeth Warren had said something like that, well, maybe she wouldn't be getting as much attention as she is, because that's a little bit too normal. Being extreme gets you a little more attention. But I would certainly say to myself, oh, there's a leader I could trust, because they understand risk management. Here's another example of Loserthink, and this is a positive example. I was watching, I'm going to give somebody a compliment here. So I was watching Tucker Carlson last night, and he does a little game show thing, I think on Fridays or something, in which he has other hosts or personalities from Fox News compete in a little trivia contest. And one of the questions was the name of Tiger Woods' upcoming autobiography. And Gregg Jarrett was competing against, I can't remember her name, I wish I could, but he was competing against somebody else. And but I'm only going to talk about the Gregg Jarrett part. So neither of the competitors had heard of the name of the book, but it was multiple choice. So Jillian Turner, I'm sorry, yes, it was Jillian Turner. And neither of them knew the answer, but there were 4 choices. And Gregg Jarrett looked at the 4 choices, rang in, and said, the answer is back. One word, just back. And he said, I don't know what the answer is, but the other 3 titles are hackneyed, which is sort of a writer's term. Nobody but writers ever uses that word. And he's a best-selling author. He's got a new book that's a bestseller right now. Last book, bestseller. So Gregg Jarrett, I believe, has a legal background. He has a media background. He knows how to write. So he knows the publishing world. So he knows how words work, right? He's an attorney, he's a TV personality, and he's an author. So when he looked at the list, the word back jumped out as obviously the title that anybody would have chosen under that situation. Because back referred to Tiger Woods coming back, but also he had a problem with his back. And also a one-word title is very strong. If you can make a title with one word, Loserthink. It's not an accident that my titles are good, if I do say so myself. It's because I work with professionals who really know how to put titles on books. Right? It's not like I come up with one title and everybody says yes. It's a whole process. A lot of people get involved. In fact, the subtitle is different from the title, the people involved in that. I mean, it's a whole process to come up with a title. Jillian Turner, as far as I know, I'm not aware of her having a best-selling book, probably didn't have experience in getting a book published and picking a title. Gregg Jarrett had an extra skill. He is a best-selling author. he has had, I know, because best-selling authors all have this conversation, long conversations with editors and publishers about what the title will be. So when he looked at the list, he and I said the same thing at the same time, because I did not know the title of Tiger Woods' book. But as soon as I saw the list, I said, oh, it's obviously back. No question about it. In my opinion, it was clear as day that out of that multiple choice, the answer was going to be back. And then Gregg Jarrett speaks almost like it's coming out of my mouth. Well, the top three are hackneyed, and back fits a couple of different ways. It's clever. That's the answer. All right. So that's my point. Gregg Jarrett, having a deeper talent stack that happened to be just perfect to this question because he knew publishing, it shows you the power of having an extra talent. Now, he didn't have to be the most experienced publishing person in the world. You just had to have a little exposure to picking titles. And it would have been obvious to you which of those choices jumped out. Oh, here, let me give you another example of Loserthink. When people are looking at the Hunter Biden thing, the other team likes to say, oh, yeah, well, you can make fun of Hunter Biden, but what about Ivanka? And the example that people keep giving me on social media is that Ivanka was granted a bunch of trademarks in China recently. Now, if you're deep in Loserthink, you say to yourself, my God, China is giving Ivanka trademarks. Not just one, but multiple trademarks. Has she sold out? Is she working for China now because they gave her a bunch of trademarks? No. Let me explain how trademarks work. I have trademarks in China, quite a few. Do you know what it takes to get a trademark in China? Let me show you the process for getting a trademark in China. It looks like this. I got some paperwork. I got my trademark paperwork. It says, what do you want? I want to have a trademark on this name or this product. What categories? This will be just for ashtrays and automobiles. Those are the only categories I need my trademark. Are you using the trademark actively? Yes, I am. Now I put this in the mail, or my lawyer does, and you send it off to China. Then China, in some office, gets your trademark request and says, let's see in my database if anybody else is using this. Nope, nobody else is using a trademark called Ivanka Trump. Granted, done. That's it. I just described the entire process. You fill out some paperwork. China looks at it and says, does somebody already have this one? Nope, we don't have somebody called Ivanka Trump in China trying to sell things with the name Ivanka Trump on it. Approved. That's it. That's the whole process. And why does somebody get a trademark in China? It's because the Chinese will otherwise steal your product. The reason you get a trademark in China, even if you never want to do business in China, is because you don't want the Chinese Dilbert comic to emerge. If I did not have a trademark in China, they could make Dilbert products and just call it Chilbert or Billbert or Gilbert or anything they wanted. They could actually even call it Dilbert if I hadn't already taken the trademark. Same with copyrights and other things. So the people who don't understand a little bit about intellectual property hear the story that Ivanka Trump got trademarks in China, and they say, my God, they're in bed together. They're in bed together. It's like President Xi and Ivanka, they've got some kind of unholy deal together. No. Somebody in Ivanka's organization, probably a lawyer, filled out some paperwork. Somebody at the lowest level of Chinese government looked at the name on the paperwork, looked at the database, and said, no, we don't have an Ivanka Trump. Approved. That's it. That's the entire process. And it's like a big deal to people who don't understand what a trademark is.